Modern Vintage Radio.
Welcome to the Podcast Planner. This show's all about podcasting with a content creation focus because content matters when you're sharing your voice with the world. We started this intentional content series with a pre-recording exercise to help us get up and rolling with our episode content. Since then, we also delivered our content using the simple tell them formula and enhanced it with some triggers to capture the attention of our audience. Now it's time to bring the episode to a close with 5 simple questions to review and refine our episode content creation. This is the episode review exercise. I started podcasting back in 2012 when there was no podcasting manual. Sure, there's 1 or 2 books on the topic, but with no actual templates or checklists. Fast forward to 2016, still nothing. Well, I decided to change that. I've packaged my 4 years of experience into the Podcast Planner. All editions include the podcast compass, recording templates, conversation triggers, and more to help you with your podcast. Grab 2 free templates when you join the VIP email list, or grab the complete planner by visiting thepodcastplanner.com today. Making time to step back and review what we've created helps us to be more aware of our progress towards the goals we have for our podcast. Because the opposite happens when we continue to just roll with the punches, produce and produce. A sense of direction and purpose gets lost, and eventually podfading. And this also applies to when things are going really great, because if you want things to continue to be great, create it. But in order to create more of what we're doing, we need to be more aware of what's making that happen. So let's get into the first question to ask after we've produced and published an episode. Here's question number 1. What 3 things did you like most about this episode? Aim for 3 reasons. Was it that the content was rich? Was the topic of the episode a challenge and you got through it better than expected? Did your interview go so well that you knocked it out of the park? What 3 things did you like most about this episode? Okay, on to the next question. Let's get real with ourselves and ask, what struggles did you experience with this episode? Did the interviewee cancel at the last minute and you had to do something on the fly? Were there technical issues like recording gear or editing? How about the actual content? Do you feel it was weak? Maybe not enough? What struggles did you experience with this episode? We've answered the tough question. Now it's time to address it with this question. What steps can you take to reduce or eliminate the struggle or struggles that you experienced? I like this question because it encourages us to think outside the problematic box and think of ways to make it easy on us to share our voice with the world. Like if it's a technical issue, who can help us? If it's an interviewing canceling at the last minute, maybe we can have a solid backup. If it's something that can't be immediately dealt with, write down a step that will get you closer to the solution. The 4th question is, how was this episode received by your audience? I usually wait about 1 to 2 weeks to answer this question because that's typically enough time for me to get any feedback. And speaking on feedback, it comes in different forms like emails, voicemails, directory reviews like Apple or Stitcher, social media shares, and download numbers. This feedback, knowing how our audience reacts to an episode, gives us data on the kind of content that our audience is most attracted to. Whether you tap into that or not, it's up to you. And the last question, so simple yet valuable to our podcasting journey. What are your final thoughts about this episode that you just published? This is where the journaling aspect comes into play. Not everything is about strategizing. The reflecting and expressing how you feel is just as important. Those are the 5 simple questions to answer and review after you've published an episode. Here's a quick recap. Number 1, 3 things you like most about this episode. Number 2, what struggle did you experience with this episode? Number 3, what steps can you take to reduce or eliminate these struggles? Number 4, how was the episode received by your audience? And number 5, final thoughts about the episode. So with that, I encourage you to make this part of your post-publishing exercise. That way you can review and refine your episodes for effective content creation. Okay, like with every closing of a series, I invite you to participate in a chance to win your very own copy of the Podcast Planner. All you have to do is give me your honest feedback. Your responses guide me to make sure I continue to provide the information and support that you need. As a way of saying thank you, I will give away 1 copy of the podcast planner to a lucky winner who is chosen at random. But in order to be considered, you need to complete the survey. Let me know your feedback by visiting thepodcastplanner.com/feedback. There is no deadline in filling out this survey. Say you listen to this 2 months or 7 months from when this episode is published, you have a chance at winning. So head over to thepodcastplanner.com/feedback. The next series that I will create and focus on is what I'm naming triggers. These triggers are content spinner, all about making it easy for us to create content, conversation triggers to provoke the best conversations, and vocal triggers, enhancing our content with vocal triggers that engage the listener. Because this show follows a series format, make sure you're subscribed to the show so that you automatically get the episodes. Speaking of which, for the majority of September to October 9th, I will be on a break. This means the show will return with the new series on October 10th. This is not a pod fade. I will return on October 10th. It's just tradition that I take a month off from business and work. You can use this time to listen to the entire podcast planner catalog and get working on sharing your voice with the world effectively. This episode was scripted and produced by Addie Saucedo. That's me. For more episodes, freebies, and information, please go to thepodcastplanner.com. If you like the show, please tell anyone that is interested in podcasting or leave your honest rating and review on Apple Podcasts. You can follow me on social media, just search Podcast Planner. This show follows a series format, not your normal weekly format. So be sure to subscribe to the show to make sure you get all of the episodes. Our supporters are Team Podcast, Podbean, Podfest, Spreaker, Podomatic, and Podcasters Society. Thank you for listening to the Podcast Planner. Until next time, plan, record, and share your voice with the world.